Hello, everybody. It is February 5th, and we have some demos. Fletcher, would you like to kick us off?
I think I'm gonna do that. Okay. We'll start by sharing. So what I'm just gonna show this, maybe a little less user-facing, but if you say are running production or you're trying out our product in the sort of development environment and kind of want to see what's going on, then this might be for you. So I've basically just spun up a stack, dragged an image on here. We can give this, what I'm basically doing is trying to kick off some non-trivial work. So, under the covers, we have several services that coordinate and send messages back and forth so that when this comes back, when I say system init whiskers, I get like a passing qualification and it like sets the name of the Docker image and like that's all cool. So if I go over here to the Jaeger tab, which is collecting tracing information, so telemetry info, you can see we've got this host from SDF, our API endpoint, and now you can see we're starting to accumulate these like service names. So what this is a view of is kind of like the call and messaging trace of like what it means to like update a value in our system and kind of how it goes through the API. You can see we're submitting now a job to do the full sort of dependent values update, which is basically asynchronous after the API is done. It just hands off to this job service pinga. So you can see it's accepting the message, starting to process it. Then we're running this dependent values update. So that's kind of what we call, that's our sort of code entry point for what it means to update from one attribute value update, what sort of happens to our graph of values. Lots of stuff clearly happening. You can sort of see down here now we're going to actually go and update a value, like a singular value, after looking at the fuller graph. Now we're sort of jumping across into another service, which is into our function execution sort of part of the system, which is Veritech. So you can see now we're receiving a message here to run a function. This is a qualification to see if that Docker image name is valid. And then we're doing some processing here. It's not like all finished, but you can sort of see there's a few interspersed messages here. These, I believe, are when we send lines of output back as the function's running. You can sort of see that we're sending out, actually, this is Cyclone. This is the small service instance that's happening inside of our sort of secure container environment, sandbox environment that we're executing the actual function in. That's what Cyclone's job is. This get is probably an initial health check to make sure it's alive, and then another call to run the function, and then these are the lines of output that are going. And then we do some follow-on work once we sort of bubble back into different services, finish dependent values update, return that off, close out some database connections. So you can sort of start to see, hopefully for people who've been in the code, this will start to make some sense in a way that perhaps you haven't seen before. But here's our system sort of now working across the different services. We're hoping this helps us a lot in development with bugs and looking at different functionalities and looking at sort of what the conversation behavior is, but then importantly, like in production as well, so we can follow what's going on. So I'll leave it there.
Nice. Yeah, this is going to be great to be able to see what's happening and how these things are working together and what information they're passing back and when. It's going to be awesome to see. Well done. All right, Nick?
Yep. This is a small one. Okay, so before, we were not multiplexing our NAT subscriptions, which was totally fine. And if you write your app in such a way that you don't ask for NATs directly, but rather for things that your active subscriptions are already listening to, you can avoid this. The way that we chose to do it was basically an SDF. Anything that tries to access NATs via a subscription from the run end actually accesses a new server called a NATs multiplexer. And we have two of these, one for CRDT and one for workspace updates in general. And before, what was happening is if you clicked around on all these tabs and like popped around system initiative and created a new function and created a new asset and popped around, the subscription count would increase. And we hit a limit of 200 with our hosting provider. If you refresh now, it's locked at that number 46. So now we're just using two subscriptions, one for CRDT and one for workspace updates for our entire app web. Before, that would could potentially skyrocket to 200. Now, I'm not exactly sure if on the Nats monitoring portal, if this means number seen ever or number active, because certainly there's not 46 active. So I believe it's probably the former, but the fact that it's stable is really awesome. And that's my demo.
Well done. Very good. All right, John, you're up.
Hello, everyone. So last week, well, first of all, my demo is going to be pretty short, but that in no way represents or correlates to the amount of work that went in to get us to that point. So basically last week we were building out first like an internal production environment and then a tooling, which was a tooling environment to then build production with. So my screen share is loading. It has loaded. So this is tools.systeminit.com, and within this environment, we will build and manage our production environment, which is what we started last week and created it last week, basically. So this model and graph represents everything in production for our infrastructure. So as an example, if I scroll down here, you can see things like security groups for each one of our services. The red, although the colors don't really represent anything other than basic groupings. The red is our ECS services, so ping, SDF, and web. And just as an example, you can see up here in the yellow, we've got like load balancer networky services. And you can see that the app.systeminit.com, which is the production endpoint, you can see that kind of like CNAME record, which all of this together then creates basically a duplicate environment, which will be the customer-facing multi-tenant environment with a smiley face on it. That is my demo.
Amazing. Amazing. Yeah. And definitely not evidence of how much work went in to make that whole happen, which has been a whole team effort. Yeah. All right. Any other last demos? Very good. All right. Goodbye, future people.